If you want your fantasy setting to actually live in the minds of your players, stringing together fancy sentences isn't gonna cut it. I learned that the hard way. For years, I struggled with narrating with too much fluff and very little impact. And then I noticed something that the best fantasy authors and DMs do constantly, and this changed everything. They're using contrast.
The Guardian Wall, like much of Dol Makyar, is a place dedicated to heroism, camaraderie, the struggle of the mortal world to make a brighter day. And it is here, under the Guardian Wall, that they have strung up the hangman's noose to kill your brother.
But contrast is more than just light and dark, good versus evil. I've discovered 5 aspects of contrast that will totally change your game. That's change, alignment, scarcity, senses, and tone. Hello Game Master, my name is Anton for Emergent GM. Let's break it down. Change.
You stand under the Guardian Wall, heroes of the Shaper's War, carved in statue, some 80 feet tall, their torsos emerging from masonry, from the rock and stone of the mountainside, lean and hold the mountains of Kavroset Bay. These statues arrayed side by side, rendered here as heroes of a revolution, now fading from memory.
That's contrasting progress versus permanence, and it creates a tangible tension in your world, a tension that makes your world feel alive. To pull this off, simply ask yourself, what has changed, and contrast that with what never will. Alignment. Contrasting alignment is one of storytelling's oldest and sharpest tricks. Maybe it's just me, but the old alignment table of D&D is one of the simplest and effective ways we can break down the different kind of alignments inside our game. Every one of us has an example of what a lawfully good paladin looks like, and every one of us has an example of what a chaotic, evil sorcerer looks like. But contrasting alignments with contradictory actions creates some interesting moral dilemmas.
Looks down upon the well-adorned and well-remembered and well-beloved body of C.A.S.S.T, here in this warm hearth, surrounded by the chattering voices of his family and his friends and all those whose lives he's touched. I can hear the gentle, occasional sobs and stutters of my dear friend, Lady Arnessa, and just quietly look down upon him. And the only shame is I couldn't want you to die twice. And then I walk away.
Contrasting alignments with contradicting actions creates some interesting gray areas in moral situations, and it's actually really easy to do. Ask yourself, what is the character expected to do based on their alignment, and do the opposite of that. Scarcity. What is common versus what is scarce? Now, typically when we think about scarcity, our minds go to resources, which actually makes for some really powerful storytelling. Think about Dune, where you have an entire planet drowning in sand. Water now becomes the very scarce and very rare element, so much so that it's almost non-existent. That scarcity shapes the entire world. It shapes their myths, it shapes their values, it shapes their faith, it even shapes the way they greet one another. That scarce thing suddenly becomes elevated in your world. Now apply that to your own setting. If magic is rare, then every spell becomes a miracle. If iron is scarce, then wooden armor and bone blades become the defining thing of your warriors. If trust is rare, then betrayal becomes the norm. So ask yourself, what would happen if a certain thing disappeared, and what would flood in to take its place? Senses. Of all the tips here, this one is the easiest to pull off. All you have to do is use one sense to tell the players one thing, and use another sense to signal that something is off.
You realize that the 2 doors that you came in has just been opened slightly, and you see a small gnome man in a pinstripe suit with a hat and a feather eating a sandwich.
Oh, no.
Pinstripe gnome drops his sandwich on the ground and goes, "Alarm! Alarm!" He yells that as loud as he can. Even for a little guy, he's got strong diaphragm. It booms through this compound.
Changing sensory channels instantly adds depth. Just remember to keep it simple. Tone. Contrasting tone is so powerful that you can actually distinguish between different kinds of fantasy subgenres just by creating the right kind of contrast.
This is the Halcyon Domain, a once golden realm of verdant valleys, majestic mountain cities, and the expansive golden city of Amber Reach. where the seat of the god-king Othedius and his grand ordinance oversaw the rule of law, faith, and magic. What is known is that the century since the apostasy, when the veiled gods blanketed the lands in shadow before vanishing into the dreams beyond, this realm has been dying.
If you wanted to create a dark fantasy setting, you'd be contrasting innocence versus maliciousness. For example, like a gnomish orphan being captured and traded to slavers. Or like in heroic fantasy where you're contrasting weakness versus a rise in courage. Like a farmer's son lifting up a broken sword in order to fend off the dark riders. Or like in gothic fantasy where beauty and decay have this really intricate intertwining between themselves. Like where you see a rose blooming out of a corpse, or a beautiful stained glass widow shattered in the moonlight. It's honestly a lot to unpack, which I can't do in this video, but I am going to explore it in future videos. So don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be notified when those videos drop. But don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. If you would like a sneak peek into what those contrasts are, I've created a little cheat sheet that contrasts the thematic elements of each subgenre that you can download absolutely free on my Patreon. Link in the description below. Finally, and you're probably already doing this, you don't need to use all 5 of these contrast aspects in every single game. Think of them as tools in your kit that you can bring out in certain occasions. And as you do so, let each one bring a new dimension into your story and make your world all the more richer. Try out 1 or 2 in your next session, like contrasting the town's peace with the chaos that's happening outside its walls. Contrast your paladin's holy code with a morally gray world around them, and then take it from there. What about you? What do you contrast in your world to make it stand out? If you found that helpful, don't forget to check out this video over here. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, may your tales never end.